Hello and welcome to Arcadia Bays.
You can't say that with a straight face.
I can't, no.
Can you do the little podcast theme tune?
Maybe,
No.
okay, in a count of three we're all going to do it.
No,
okay?
I can't. No.
You have to, you've done it already.
Come on.
This is
Darling.
not cleared with my agent.
1, 2, 3.
Arcadia Bays.
There we go.
Well,
That's beautiful.
If you're still with us, thanks and well done. I guess we should introduce ourselves. I'm Johnny, and we said we were going to do an interesting fact about Life is Strange.
This was your idea, Johnny.
I know. Oh, I've completely given up on taking pictures as Max. I take maybe one an episode now.
But that's her talent. That's like,
Ostensibly.
That's
Her
kind
talent's rewinding time.
well, that's
It's not
a
a
gift.
talent, that's it's a special power.
That's
The
a
professor
great
never goes, "Oh, you are
responsibility."
really
Yeah.
good at rewinding time." I like what
She
you
never
do.
asked for this.
Wow.
Great.
Hello, my name's Tom, and I chose the omelette and not the waffle.
I'm
That's your
Aoife,
answer,
and I killed Lisa.
Boo! That's the plant.
It is the plant.
I am Chris, and I accidentally let Kate fall to her death, but then I went back.
You mean you cheated?
I cheated. But no, in fact, let's get this out of the way right now.
You asked me
You
for help.
should be allowed,
Tom, how do I save her?
in a game about rewinding time, you should be allowed to revert to an earlier save.
No,
because that is
No,
that
you
is
have to play within the rules of the
that
game,
is an
though.
The
intertextual
game
way
says you're
of-
not allowed to do
Yeah,
that.
Well-
that specific moment, saving and rewinding is frozen.
I think that is merely. But then when they say that you're not allowed to do that, they're actually asking true fans to look outside the borders of the game, as Max Caulfield would do.
I think you're talking balls.
Anyway, I went back and I saved Kate because she seemed very nice, and I felt pretty good about it.
We can all agree on that.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, according to the stats, 60% of people managed to save her. 40% of players
This is
are now dealing with a game where Kate is dead.
Is there a way that the game could kind of ping out a notification to police stations all over the world and just round up that 40%? Because they're not going to be like planting, memorial gardens or anything. They're not going to be,
No,
doing nice
indeed.
things. They're going to be outside kicking badgers to death or something.
So before we go any further, we should probably say that there's going to be a lot of spoilers in this podcast.
If you haven't already worked that
Can't
one
we go
out.
back and
we can go back in time. I can put this at the start of the podcast when I'm editing it. No, yes, we should say that. I mean, it's going to be in the video description, so it's fine. But we're going to deep dive on all the spoilers up to the most recent episode. So
Which at this point is episode 3.
Yes.
And it should be said we're doing this because we think Life is Strange is really interesting.
Yes.
Agreed?
okay, so what, Johnny? You weren't sure about episode 3, were you?
So all the way
Let's
through.
just talk about how we feel about the series up until now.
Okay. Up until now, I think it's really great. It's really refreshing in terms of the insight it gives to some female characters who are not only well written but kind of like vulnerable and human and vivid. Episode 3, I felt at the very end went off the rails a little bit. I didn't like it.
Totally agree.
I just felt like, especially maybe I got suckered in too much by the teaser at the end of episode 2, which is them kind of sneaking around the school after hours, and then like clearly they get surprised and they start to panic, and I thought to myself, oh man, like clearly whoever it is that's made Rachel disappear is now like hunting them, and I thought they had so much to go on to make a really like meaty mystery out of it, and instead they just decided to like go, alternate timeline, Chloe's in a wheelchair. I didn't really see much point in doing that. I mean, I get it colours in Chloe's character because she's sad about her father, and you can save her, and that's cool because your powers are developing, but it has consequences. But
Can I leap in here? Because I think what's weird about episode 3 is episode 3 has tidied up a lot of the things which the first 2 episodes I felt weren't that good at. So it kind of has slightly nailed. It's softened the character. Someone was telling me that English actors, when they're doing an American accent, they always overdo it really badly. So what the director will say to them is, "Oh, your American accent's really good," and then they will calm down and they will actually then do a good American accent because they kind of take the brakes off, put the brakes on a little bit. And I feel that they have bedded in a little bit in all of the Hellas and biatches and the things they were overdoing. That has really settled down a bit. At the same time, I think the end of episode 3 is really disappointing because there's a couple of things. Like, one of it's just too big. The going back in time is too big. It's too big and it turns it into every other time travel thing,
Yeah.
where you go back and you change something vast. Also, it does where this game is at its best when it's putting you in control of your decisions, and it takes you completely out of the control of it,
Yeah.
which is just very unsatisfying. Also, it's weird that we all agree this is a game which treats female characters with respect, which they respect and understanding that they often are not afforded in games and even in cinema and in books. You know, female characters do not have a good time of it. And then, after doing that, which is so great, it drops in the wheelchair, and it is dropping it in as a tone of otherness, which is really actually amazingly insulting if you're in a wheelchair. And they've clearly sat down, or at least I feel they have maybe sat down and thought, what's the worst thing that could have happened? Oh, wouldn't it be terrible if you're in a wheelchair? And there are hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands of people in the world who are in a wheelchair, and it's not the worst thing that could have happened to them. Also, it's too artificial, the sense that you save the father and then there is this repercussion.
Yeah.
It feels really like bad writing. That said, I will say the half-painted house, Chloe's half-painted house is amazing. Did you notice that? Chloe's house is half-painted in the original timeline because the father didn't do it. And it's this kind of Mrs. Havisham, it's the moment that their lives went wrong. And then when you go back, the house is all painted.
I don't know. So like I agree with a lot of the stuff you're saying, especially the stuff with the female characters, which I've interviewed, don't know, and I can chop in a section of their interview here to hear what they had to say about it. I find it interesting just that I remember reading, before there was talk about, changing the main character from a female to a male, and especially with episode 3, because I see graffiti saying, Max is a feminazi and stuff. I honestly don't think the game could work with a male character. I just see everything that she encounters and her friends encounter as intrinsically a female experience, and I think that's why.
It would have been a different game.
Yeah.
And that's why at the beginning we did write several possible main characters for the game, and it could have worked with the male character, but it would have been something else.
Yeah, there's a misconception about boys don't want to play as girls as well. You guys were in a GDC talk, weren't you?
Yes, it was a cool talk by Ashley Birch. That shows that she made some research with more than thousands of teenage boys and girls asking questions about what kind of character you like to play, etc. And it was like 60 or 70% of the boys said, no, I don't mind playing female characters. And one of the questions that was the most interesting is like the question was, what do you think of female representation in games? And more than 50% of the boys answered that they felt it degrading.
Really?
Degrading.
Or just
sexualized in a bad way, and the boys answer that they find it that it was not the female were usually not well pictured in games. We don't have an agenda with either. There is of course political sometimes messages in the game, like we were talking about surveillance. We are talking about themes that might be political, but we are really mostly trying to be sincere, I think, in the way we deal with every situation, and to be neutral and not just
even by being neutral though, because that's what George Miller said about Fury Road, right? He wasn't trying to be feminist, but by doing that, it becomes a feminist.
It's too easy to just great the regular character.
I don't know. I'm. It's just it's a ham-handed game, pretty much in every respect, and I kind of have grown to love that about it. And it is like it works best when it's in like more personal, smaller moments rather than the big, massively alternate timeline, altering changes. But it worked for me in the sense that it makes the case that grief makes you who you are as much as anything else that you deal with in your life. Yeah. And for me, it wasn't so much that Chloe was in a wheelchair. It was that, well, we only saw her for a split second, but she doesn't have her blue hair. She doesn't have her tattoos. She's not. She's not the fireball that we know her as. And that for me was the sadder thing than.
You know what though? She is smiling at the end, and that's probably the first time that I've really seen her smile like that. And yes, she doesn't have blue hair, and yes, she's not the character that you've grown to love, and maybe Max has grown to love, but. This is who she is now, and I really liked episode 3. I think it did a great job of focusing in on the Chloe and Max relationship. Episode 1 felt a bit cluttered, introducing a whole cast of characters. Episode 2 zeroed that in a bit more, and 3 was really about this core relationship, which is, I think, its biggest strength. and I think it remains to be seen how much they let you do in episode 4 before you inevitably go back to the parallel universe.
And also, I should also point out that they may, in episode 4, they may deal with the wheelchair thing with absolute grace and elegance and sort of, insight. But I just suspect that they aren't.
I would love for them to have it so that you have a choice whether you can reset to the original timeline or carry on. I don't think that they will, because I think it would be too technically difficult. But presumably they will come to a situation where Max tells Chloe, I was in this original timeline and your dad was dead, but you weren't in a wheelchair. Do you want to go back? And she would hopefully feel pretty conflicted about that.
It won't be that though. It won't be. It won't be that bad. It won't be. Do you want to get out of this wheelchair? It will be more like there will be some sacrifice she has to make for something larger than herself.
Like perhaps because we haven't seen Joyce yet in the new timeline,
Yeah.
so it could be something like that.
But it is interesting. I think that the game is so much. You said this brilliantly. When you go back 5 minutes, that's interesting. Changing the past on a kind of a Twitter level of 140 characters into the past is really interesting because it makes you these quantum ripples going through the world. Changing the past in a sort of a 6 years way is really boring because every other science fiction film does it, and the changes are so vast that they become slightly logicless. Whereas I think by going back 5 minutes, you get to see the clockwork, and I think this game was so brilliant at showing you the kind of clockwork and the repercussions of these small decisions, which felt really right for this
Well,
story.
it's because almost like going back 5 minutes, you're not changing people's character or who they are, so you kind of almost it's almost you're communicating with them on a more personal level because you understand them better. You're like, oh well, I'll rewind this because I phrased that wrong, but I feel like we can understand each other if I just say something.
And that's really nice as well, the idea that the mistake you make might not be like the day you let your dad drive out and he went and killed himself. It might be the time you said something wrong. Like those strike me as
And
being
we all
more...
know that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There are so many times you think, oh, I wish I could go back and not have that conversation.
I mean, the Kate outcome is based on so many little moments. Whether you pick up the phone call to her, whether you mention the right family member as she's standing on the brink.
It's about paying attention to her.
The small details, yeah.
It's really interesting in that, like we all talk about the relationship between Max and Chloe is the strength of the series, but it's also the weakness, I think, in that the other weak moment is the Chloe getting her foot stuck in the train tracks, which is crap, which is like, that is in every, 1970s, kids film, there is a bit where someone gets their foot stuck in a train track. But also, again, at this point, I don't mind saying this, when I was playing it, I find Chloe quite annoying. And I was thinking, yes.
Even after episode
I was
3?
thinking because she's, not because of who she is, but I don't think she's particularly well written. And I like the character, and I like the idea of being defined by this pain, which is a classic thing in literature. Is the pain is what defines you. But I thought she was overwritten. With the other characters, you get a sense of genuine that they have found the centre of that character, and they can explore it in kind of a naturalistic way. And she is jarringly unnaturalistic. She feels like the mood board for a character
But it's
rather than a
almost
character.
like that's because that's what she wants to.
Oh, I know there's a lot of
project
front,
herself.
but I feel that even then they're overdoing it. And so by the time she got her foot stuck, I thought, you know what? Actually, I could do with you being hit by a train right now, because there's no avenue in this game for me to say, okay, Chloe, like I'm going to hang out with other people for a week. The only way of I'm not saying I want Chloe to be hit by a train. I was saying I wanted less of her in the game, and I thought they were giving me this wonderful opportunity, which sadly, because it's a video game, comes via being hit by a train. But it's not. You can't fail that stage.
But that is
and that's a
valid
moment where the
because-
game, for me, really, that's the first moment where the game really stumbled. People talk about like the bad dialogue and these sort of little minutiae problems, but that was the first big problem, was that moment that they were actually saying, actually I am just a bit like every other game and I don't really care what you want.
I was going to say
And
that is
then-
valid though, because Max wouldn't have ever made that decision. That is a place where the game
No,
has
you see,
failed
you are totally right. I just don't
you as
think
a player, but
I
Max
think the
has
problem
to
is
follow
they're
the
trying to
path.
get you to role play as someone, and I just didn't feel that I had been given the incentive to role play like that.
I warmed to Chloe in the last episode.
I really wanted to, and but I do think it's certainly not the actor's fault, and I don't think it's the character function is great. I just think the actual handling of the character, who's a really tricky character to get across. How do you get across a character who is all front without making that, and whose front is slightly annoying, without making that character slightly annoying?
Well, I think it helped for me seeing her as a young girl before she became that person, and seeing,
Like her
underneath.
mum getting out the photo album and stuff.
Yeah.
and
Seeing, I don't know if you saw on the wall next to her bed, they've got all of her heights when she was growing up, and she
Yeah.
scribbled them all out, which I thought was horrible. So it's her like trying to erase her own existence. But I think Chloe's in a difficult, and I'm talking here about the actual development and writing the character. She's in a difficult position because they have set her up to be the straight man for Max.
Yeah.
So Max makes these decisions, and Chloe has to respond and give meaning to those decisions. Whichever way you go.
She's not even the straight man. She's like the backboard of a basketball hoop. Like Max throws the ball and it has to bounce off Chloe before it goes in the hoop.
Yeah, you're right though. I mean, the weird thing is I've been playing Life is Strange through with my other half, which is why it took me so long to play episode 3 because she was busy. But we debate about a lot of the decisions. Like for example, in episode 1, she wanted to stay hidden in the cupboard because she hates confrontation.
I couldn't get into the cupboard, which is weirdly what would have happened if I'd really been there.
It's still valid though, which is nice thing I thought about episode 1. But we argue a lot about some of the decisions, and when it came to the phone call, I felt like I wasn't going to answer. I was like, well, she's calling, but she can call again in a bit. And Wiggy, my other half, was like, no, let's answer it. And I was like, okay, well, we'll watch it, but I've got the controller, so if we rewind, it's going to go my way. And then Chloe blew up so badly at Max being on the phone for 25 seconds. It was like, oh, okay, well, sod that then. You can stay like that. You can stay angry. I'm not going to even see what the other side of it is.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Like Chloe, yeah, she did get on my nerves in that episode and that phone call in particular because I was like, ooh. But I think I have a lot of time for her even so because I knew a lot of people like that growing up. In fact, I might have been one of those people, and just not really realised it. But it's as soon as she starts showing her softer side. Like in the pool scene and stuff with you can tell she cares about her friends so much. I don't know. I have a lot of time for this.
I do agree with absolutely with what you're saying, and there's a really interesting anecdote about oh god, what was the movie? What's the Liam Neeson movie that Sam Raimi? Is it Darkman? Darkman, the Sam Raimi movie.
You stop that, Tom
So
Phillips.
there's a character in Bruce Campbell's autobiography. He writes about this thing, which is a problem that lots of films have, and you see it all the time, where there is a character in Darkman who is a villain, and there is a moment where you see him early on doing something really disturbing. He's sort of rolling on a bed naked with money everywhere, and it freaks people out because it makes you think, oh, he's not just a villain, he's bonkers.
Yeah.
And that scene has a function in that it's meant to make you feel really uncomfortable about this character, who is the villain, so you probably should feel uncomfortable about him.
Yeah.
And whenever they took the movie to be, the way movies get made is so terrible, I think it's the same way that video games get made, they get focus grouped in shopping malls in the States, and everyone come out and go, oh, that scene made me really uncomfortable. And the executives don't go, oh, wait a minute, that scene's meant to make you uncomfortable, therefore it works. They just go, oh, that scene makes people uncomfortable, out it comes.
Yeah.
And I think when you see someone like Chloe, who is meant to be a bit annoying at first, I think maybe you're right, and that it's a strength of the game that they've managed to fight. There will have been publishers going, this character's really annoying, soften her. And it's actually quite an achievement that she's still so annoying. My problem is I just still think she's...
Well, I did ask Don't Know It if they meant to make her so annoying.
Oh
and
my God.
I'll put that audio clip in here right now. I think episode 3 was a turning point for her. Did you did you feel that was going to happen? Did you think people...
I think yes, that was really the point to... Yes, Chloe, she's the way she is in the beginning. She's rebellious, she's angry, she's quite sometimes a bitch with Max, and you might dislike her. There are also people that just love her because she's cool, she's flamboyant, but we are with the episode. Max has influences on her. Chloe has influence of Max. We are making the characters evolve and grows, and yes, that was clearly the idea, and of course the ending of episode 3.
This is like your friend you hate, but you love him at the same time.
Yeah.
It will take you to other passes.
But no, I don't know. I just really ship Chloe and Max. So, which is another. I think that was another of the big decisions, and that was one of the decisions in the entire game that I had absolutely no trouble with. I was like, kiss her now, and I was just not rewinding it.
I was disappointed by how quickly Chloe pulled away. Not in that I want them to get together, because frankly I believe that Chloe is straight. But
Really?
Yeah.
See, I don't.
Yeah, I
It's
think
weird
I
because
think that as
it's
well.
weird. Everyone's really, because I was talking to Keza about this, and she believes that her Max is straight and her Chloe is gay, and I believe that my Max is gay and my Chloe is straight.
I think
So what
that's- I
about
think you're
Chloe
right.
and Rachel Amber though? She was definitely jealous.
Definitely there was something there.
She was
yeah.
definitely jealous that Rachel Amber was hooking up with that
Maybe
weirdo
she's
guy.
bisexual then. But
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, but I wouldn't. Yeah.
I think that's actually been one of the things they've handled really well, is the porous nature of sexuality. It feels
Yeah.
rather than
Especially
just
as a
coming down on one
teenager
side.
as well.
Yeah, oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
they
Yeah.
Max certainly, I think my Max doesn't really know herself.
yeah.
Can we just talk? Like, we talked a lot about Chloe, and like we're on the fence as to whether she's a good character or not. But like, Max is unambiguously a brilliant video and
Yes.
a brilliant and an unusual video game character, because video game characters are often defined by, you disagree, but let me finish this. Video game characters are defined by their action, and Max is defined, it seems, by her uncertainty about action, which is really like a massive breakthrough. Feels like a massive breakthrough. I was thinking the other day, it's so weird. In books, you totally accept that the main character doesn't have to be the hero.
Yeah.
But in games, there's no sense of a protagonist being different from a hero. The main character almost exclusive. It's changing a bit now, but like a lot of the time, the main character, there's just this assumption that they are
Yeah.
heroic.
Well, she
And Max is a hero, I think, but there's still she is very different to most normal heroes.
Well,
Yeah.
it's because she is the protagonist and she can be a hero, but she can also be a passive spectator. I mean, it's just a great thing that you you never see.
Best bit in the game for me is in the first episode where she leaves the classroom. I love the way the teacher Dreamboat is leaning against the desk. I know I talk about this in the office all the time, he's awful.
I
He's
don't
awful.
trust him. I think he's up to
But
something.
what is great about the way he's leaning against the desk is when we were at school, we all had teachers who were just like, "Hey guys, I'm just one of you guys," and they would lean against it. Like, I don't want to sit behind a desk like a stuffy teacher. I'm just going to lean
I'm
against.
down
the
with the
desk.
kids.
It's the newsround technique.
Yeah, he's Mr. Bispham from Educating East London or whatever it was. But Mr. Bispham was terrible, by the way. But the bit where she leaves the classroom and she's in the hallway and they dial up all of the sound effects, and you get that thing which you never get. You got it in 70s cinema all the time. You never get it in video games. Overlapping voices, and all these people are walking past, and there's this sense that this character is under glass, like in the bell jar kind of thing. And it was such a beautifully observed, in such a precise way that games don't do that very well.
I think it was you that said she's introverted as well, and I can't
Yeah,
really think of
she's-
any other games protagonist that is like.
Yeah, I couldn't think of any either.
That's a
Introverted
really good point.
and I forget the other things I said. But yeah, she's completely unlike any other protagonist that I've played,
But you hate her. And why do
You
you
don't-
Whoa,
Wait.
steady now.
Why do you
I would
hate
actually,
nice
I
things?
was just gonna say before Johnny, I think probably makes quite a good point. Like, 'cause I think I know what you're about to say. That sometimes she is irritating. Sometimes you do think, oh, for goodness sake, Max, come on, just buck up your ideas or whatever. She's not the perfect character. None of the characters in the game are unflawed. Everyone has flaws in some way.
But that's because she's going through an arc, which games characters almost never go through.
Yeah, but I would argue that every character has pluses and minuses to their personalities. Even Nathan Prescott.
He doesn't have any pluses.
I think there are moments when he
if
does.
you talk to him about his father, he's implied that he had a very difficult
He's the
childhood.
quintessential,
and-
rich kid who's been ruined by his parents, kind of
Well, I
character.
thought there was like some hints of something else there, but like every character, like Chloe has good sides and bad sides.
Well, the thing that sorry, to
Victoria.
interrupt you. Yeah, but like so when we went to see that presentation of Life is Strange at BAFTA, do you remember they said that every character in it pretty much started out as an archetype, and
Yeah.
then they kind of like they just fleshed out.
So
Yeah.
I feel like
they feel well rounded.
I need to have my opportunity to put the boots in on Max, otherwise it's never going to happen and everyone's going to think I'm awful. It is that thing where she is introverted, and I think like that's great. It's very interesting as a character build, but in her comfort zone, like she winds me up with some of the stuff she says. I think it's a bit forced with the whole Mimi stuff. Like, no one really thinks that way because for an
Mimi?
introvert, she is remarkably self-assured. it's like within her own head and within her comfort zone, she is an absolute master of all. So everything she says is witty and pithy, and at no point does she go, that was a stupid thing to say or to think, because that's what goes on in my head a lot. Maybe this is...
I think there are different kinds of introvert though, because I think there's Myers-Briggs profile, which is something I love, is about trying to get at whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. It has a load of other things, but one of the questions it asks is one of the questions about where you stand at parties, whether you stand in the centre of the room or at the outside. I mean, there are 30 of these questions or so they're a lot more sophisticated than I'm making out. But I think introversion is not necessarily about self-doubt, though they often go together. Sometimes introversion is about self-containment, and I feel that she's that kind of introvert.
Yeah, I know people who are really smart and who will think these things in their heads, but will never be able to say them out loud because they're socially anxious.
What, like release the crack can?
Yeah, like
That was
she's
funny, I
really,
must
she's
admit.
a really smart girl, but she wouldn't say that thing out loud, and I like the fact that it's sort of going on in her head, because you realise she's smart enough, and you know, if she just had a bit more courage,
Or even
and,
if she wanted to, maybe
and
she doesn't
reassurance.
want to.
But she's
Well, maybe, yeah.
She's trying to hack into David's
She's the Tumblr
laptop.
generation. Maybe I'm sure she's
Tumblr
like...
generation.
Yeah.
That must never be a Malcolm Gladwell book.
But she gets the password wrong and says to herself, "Much fail," and it's like, come on.
Oh yeah, but
like-
that's writing again. That comes
Yeah, no.
down.
This is where I have a problem with Nights. It's just some of those things that like they just clang for me.
I have to make this point. So I think I've said it before, but I was on a train with, a couple of weeks ago, and I was sat across the aisle from a load of school kids, and they must have been like 15, 16, and they were talking like the characters from Life is Strange, and I don't think they said hello, but they were just. Like, I just want to bring the point up that it's easy for us to say this isn't how teenagers speak, but.
And that's
none of us,
because
sadly, are teenagers.
I think
anymore.
that's because they were English though, and so they were appropriating American slang and overdoing it. In a weird
Maybe.
way, they were doing exactly the same thing that
Maybe.
Dopenot has done. Is that when it's not your culture and it's something that you, in a weird way, aspire is the wrong word, but like you overdo it.
I don't know. I think maybe American teenagers do talk like that. It's like there's no smoke without fire, right? I think like if you're growing up and trying to impress people.
If you look back at the early seasons of Buffy, in particular, the high school years, seasons 1 to 3, like that is very
Whedon-esque speak.
yeah, it is very Whedon-esque, and it is very, you know, they are sort of almost archetyping their own culture, trying to fit in by being just a little bit over the top, preppy high school zealous.
And in fact, there's a lot of nods to Buffy in Life is Strange.
There's a lot of nods to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Doctor
the
Who.
oh so subtle Twin Peaks
Yes.
license plate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it's not a reference if you're just saying the name of
Yeah,
the
no,
thing.
absolutely. It's October Country. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Can we talk about puzzles? Because I have a feeling that this would be a better game if they just ditched the puzzles.
I like them. I like the moment where you're trying to get into the office and
I
you,
never really
you blow
feel-
it with the sodium bomb. After the tedious fetch
Yeah.
quest, that was tedious, but you blow it and the alarm goes off, so then you run in and you rewind time, and there's that brilliant cutscene where Max opens the door and Chloe's just like, you know, she's...
I guess, yeah,
Stunned.
maybe puzzles is the wrong word. Maybe more like I feel like they have already been so successful in getting people to click through and make rudimentary choices in what's essentially interactive fiction, that the moments when a fetch quest turns up, or the moment I keep coming back to is the moment where you have to get into your dorm in episode 1 and you suddenly see this ladder teetering nearby
Oh,
and
yeah.
can you go,
Oh, yeah.
god, it's an adventure game. And like it feels like you could do away with all of that. They
Yeah.
feel like almost they need some kind of gaminess to keep players turning the pages, and I don't think they need that.
Well, I don't know. I feel like it would lose something if you were only rewinding for different dialogue options. Because I think a lot of the meaning that I get from Life is Strange is deciding when and whether to rewind and change something. Like sometimes I'll see a dialogue option and then I'll rewind and see the other one before making my choice. But sometimes I'll do it and I'll make a conscious decision not to rewind and see what else could be said. And I feel like if there wasn't also a mechanical element where Max is using the power to get past an obstacle.
Yeah.
They've got better, like with the door, the blowing
Yeah.
open the door. What they did, which saved that sequence, the fetch quest, is they turned it into a character element with Warren on the phone. That you're learning more about
Warren,
their
sorry
relationship.
for swearing.
Yeah.
So that kind of
Wait, how to swear?
that kind of redeemed that a bit. But I feel that they should have the courage to go, you know what, this is a game, but it's not a game that has
But to
puzzles.
be
in it.
honest, so it jarred with me there when you said puzzles, because I don't really view those sections as puzzles. And to be honest, what I like about them is that they give me an opportunity as Max to explore the environment without having a time limit imposed on me.
maybe that's right.
That's what I like about them,
They're
and
also-
that's why I want.
I
them
think
to
puzzles
stay
is
there.
probably the wrong word. I
Yeah.
think what I mean is just busy work.
Sure, but I
Yeah.
like that because then I can go around and like see what Max thinks about. Like I purposely go and find everything, and that's why I take all the photos.
Do you
but
take?
I've taken like every
I think
single
I've
bit of
taken like
almost.
4 pictures. Max is going to fail the class. That's the twist ending for me. Is they're like,
No,
Max, you
Dave's
haven't
taken all
done any
these.
work.
Bet you haven't even read all the diary.
No, I haven't. No.
What?
You guys are missing out on
Okay.
some great
But
stuff.
I feel
great
like
headers.
with the busy work, they are at least getting a bit more knowing. There was a really nice moment in the third one where one of the ingredients you needed for the bomb was up on top of a cabinet. And I saw
Oh,
it
yes,
and
the
was like,
weed
where's the
killer.
thing I need to move
To make it
after
fall
the thing?
down.
And I just clicked on it and Max was like, oh, come on, Max, you know you're clumsy, because they've done
Just get
2 or
the
3
chair.
different,
Yeah.
oh, dang it,
That
kind
was
of
very
puzzles.
funny. I like that.
It
They're
was
definitely getting
good.
It's really interesting to see. In one of the things in episodic games you get real sense of is how developers get better at making their own game.
Yeah.
As time goes by, and they certainly have got better at making this game, and that's it.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
And they're still making it as well, so
Yeah.
like they're seeing, you know, all the feedback, like, you know, people slagging them off for saying hella, and they work it in, and
That's
they
really
make
interesting.
fun
That
of
is
it.
really interesting. Actually, yeah.
Warren. Let's talk about Warren.
He's a creepy little guy.
I hate Warren so much.
Wait,
Creepy
Warren?
Yes.
Warren.
Yeah.
He just wants
Creepy
to go to
Warren.
Planet of the Apes.
got the popcorn.
No, he doesn't. He's
When
a
he's
little-
coming along to the
Oh, am
cinema.
I wrong? Is he sinister? I like the fact that he went for a hug and had to turn it into an arm scratch.
I bet he's the kind of person that would go, but I'm such a nice guy, why won't you go out with me? Like, he
Oh,
just,
Yeah.
right. Warren's a shitbag.
so there is a bit of dialogue in, I think, episode 1 where it's like, he says, oh, sensitive, that's like code for you won't sleep with me or something.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's not
Oh.
nice.
And he pressures, like, I said no to going to the cinema with him, and he's now sending messages being like, I've got the tickets, I have got an extra one, no pressure. Like,
That is
Oh, you see,
pressure, Warren.
I said yes to go to the cinema, so he's
So
just
did he
been
for a
fine.
shit.
I
regrets
accident.
it.
I'm really annoyed about it because I thought, oh, I'll just go as his mate because I'll keep being his friend. And now he thinks it's like something else. I'm like, because I'm totally shipping
What if
Chloe and Max.
Episode 4, they just make you sit through all of Planet of the Apes.
Oh,
with Warren. That's the entire
As he
episode.
slowly arcs his
I know,
arm
it's
around you.
Max is just getting increasingly depressed that she can't advance time, she can only rewind
Yeah.
it.
It's so annoying. But should we talk about
Who else can we? The David Madsen. I think that he's actually trying to do the right thing.
He's a red
just
herring,
really
isn't he?
Yeah,
badly,
he's-
able to do it.
I think he's a good guy at heart, but he's just going the wrong way about
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
He's misguided, but he's like, I
So-
think he's meant to be like a lost soul, isn't he?
Yeah, he's another good, well-rounded character. He's a bit of a dick, but he's also got PTSD, and he doesn't really know how to try and fix the problems that he knows are going on.
Yeah, he's trying to make sense of a complicated world through.
A world he doesn't
his
understand.
experience
the one
as a
he- yeah.
soldier, yeah.
So, with that in mind, which way did you go with the argument thing? Did you back up Chloe or
With
did you back
regret,
Chloe?
I backed Chloe.
What? Why with regret?
With regret to not being able to help David some more.
Okay.
But I was steadfast behind
With
Chloe.
regret that you couldn't get hit by a train earlier.
Never.
I
Never.
think like tough shit. Like he's in the wrong because he shouldn't be spying on his family. That's crazy.
Yeah,
and weird.
agreed.
I
did
thought-
feel sorry for him.
Also, I felt like this weird afterglow of spending the night with like Chloe and like we
Yeah,
had
you
Sunday morning.
couldn't-
You
Yeah.
couldn't like double cross her after that.
It's yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like the decision had no real precedent, and when I watched it, like, this was one of the ones where I knew I was going to have to watch both, but I made sure I watched the one where she backs David first because I would be more likely to side with Chloe, and it was, again, this is a writing issue. It was just so out of character for Max to suddenly be like, but we can't prove he's done anything wrong. It's like, what are you talking about? You've just spent 3 episodes of this game trying to prove what he's doing wrong.
You find
You know?
files and everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like,
you've seen the cameras, and you're going to hide that to be like, well, you don't know. Like, it was so out of character for Max. It felt like they were throwing in a decision because
They felt like that was where a decision
rhythmically,
Yeah,
they
that's
needed
true.
another siren
That's really
decision.
interesting.
Incidentally, while we're talking about the weird siren decisions, where it's like with
Yeah,
the
the lights.
the one where it's kiss Chloe, don't kiss Chloe. It's so funny because her face is like rippling and she looks so expectant, but it's like someone's gonna die.
Sorry, I was too busy mashing the button that goes, kiss, just kiss!
Well, I had to make sure that Wiggy was also on Team Kiss, so I turned around and was just staring at her like, well, with my like thumb hovering over square.
God, what's come obvious to me? I don't remember any of these decisions. These little decisions, they just go completely.
Little?
That's a big
Kissing
decision!
her is a
They go
huge
completely.
thing.
I just in one ear and out the other. I'm the worst. I'm the reason you
But
had
you were
to
going to
use
say I'm
the.
the worst kisser
No,
there.
I went, well,
He is, believe me.
yeah, no. You,
Sorry.
oh god. But yeah, they don't really register with me. It's really odd.
No wonder
I
you
haven't
don't like
realised
Chloe.
that.
You don't remember all the good things about her.
Oh.
Yeah, I really don't.
You just spend your time at hating.
Oh.
What, do we have any thoughts on theories for episode 4 and 5? Or any sort of interesting things that we've read online?
This is the thing, I really wanted to be getting my teeth into the where's Rachel gone business, because I don't
Yeah.
believe Frank did it either, because that would be too obvious and he's too straightforward a character. But
Can we talk about how cool it was when she dumped her drink on his beans?
I
I was eating those beans!
dumped the drink on the beans.
Yeah.
I dumped the beans on the floor like 3 or 4 times.
I do
That's
remember
so funny.
that one. Yeah. I was eating
those beans.
Did you guys make his dog run out onto the road?
No. And
I didn't.
If you look, almost no one has done that. Which
Oh.
comes back to that theory that you can kill 100 people and no one
Never a
cares, but
dog.
you can't kill a dog.
No.
Yeah.
It's Fable 2 all over again.
Yes, so, sorry, I derailed.
Rachel
you there.
Amber is the old
Yeah.
woman around the back of the diner.
That's what everyone thinks, but I think that would be terrible.
I've never spoken to the old woman around the back of the diner, so
What
I
about
would be.
cereal?
I would be.
What about
pretty-
cereal,
the
though?
cereal theory. Tell them.
The cereal theory is that alongside the old woman around the back of the diner is a certain brand of cereal, and it is also in
That's
Chloe's
it, yeah.
kitchen, and Chloe says that she loves it. Now,
No, Max.
No,
says-
Max,
Max says she loves
she
it.
still eats the same cereal. So do I. That's not news, Max. That's just asinine.
Once my friend disappeared, I completely changed my
But
breakfast routine.
also the.
Maybe it's Max around the back of the
But
diner.
also, yeah, because the old woman, when you talk to her, she says, "Oh, I've been here 1,000 years. I've seen everything." And she seems
She's
to
also
know
probably
a lot.
drunk though.
Do you know what I do? I've failed to find this old woman.
Yeah, I need
A
to
lot
go
of
back
people,
and.
yeah,
I,
you need
Is that a nod to Mulholland Drive?
Could be. There
Like
does
the,
seem to be a
uh,
lot of Lynchianism.
just a bit. Twin Peaks!
Can we talk very briefly about something quite boring and technical? But I was talking to Ben Schroeder, a friend of mine, about this, and the lighting in this game is the best lighting I've ever seen in
Gorgeous,
any
isn't it?
game.
Lovely, yeah.
ever.
So
It's
nice.
The sunset at the end of episode 2.
just the kind of that it
It
has.
has quite nostalgia tinge. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I'm rewatching Twin Peaks again at the moment for the first time since like 1990 because I'm old, and it has that kind of blossomy pink filter to everything, and this game has really nailed that. That's one of the nicer references to Twin Peaks rather than the license plate.
The laying in bed in the morning with Chloe thing
That's
was.
my
Oh
favourite.
yeah, with the light
Lovely.
coming through the flag.
Yeah, I
hanging over
stayed
the
there for
window.
the hot and the
Yeah.
dust motes and the
Yeah.
little shifts in their body language while they're just like everyone's had that moment where you're just lying on your back and you're not talking to
The person
your friend
that's
and you
there,
feel
yeah.
like peaceful and
And you look over and they're playing a Game Boy, and you're like,
I was having such a lovely moment. Me and Connor are bursting you.
So I
Me and
had
Warren.
a thought about a theory for it. So you know how in the very first class when you're having with Mr. Jefferson, he says something like, "Film is like little pieces of time." So what if Max's power translates to video, and she went back to the night that Kate got drugged?
Ooh, that
And there's
is
pictures of
interesting.
her as well, so
There
she
is
could
pictures
conceivably
of her,
go and
yeah.
change that.
Yeah, because I feel like we're done with seeing Kate as a character because
Yes.
for 40%
Yeah.
of people she's
She's
dead.
gone, yeah.
But yeah,
Unless you go back in time.
uncovering the truth. Oh,
this is the thing. I'm really annoyed that I think you were saying this. That episode 4 is not going to be picking up the threads of episode 2. It's going to be picking up the threads of where they've dumped it at the end of episode 3, which is really annoying.
Yeah, it feels
they
like we
can't
do a lot of
resist the
footwork.
big gesture.
Yeah.
And now we're stuck in Crapsville. You
Yeah.
know, it's just.
It,
Well-
it opens the door too wide as well, because conceivably now Max could look at any
Everything
picture
is
of Rachel
scrambled.
Amber,
Yeah.
you know, the wanted
And just
posters
go
around
straight
town,
back
just
in.
go.
And everything is scrambled.
Yeah.
I want to return to the half-painted house. That's my
Yeah.
that's my
I want back in the
change.org
original
petition.
Well, so I reckon where the game where everything will come full circle is when she rewinds that first time when you're in Mr. Jefferson's class. Like, we've got to come back to her
Yeah, that feels
eventually.
right. That's the Devil's Advocate.
Yeah.
God, that's a terrible
That's like her
movie, but that is the
fail-safe,
Devil's
though.
Advocate.
Or,
Like, you know how in time travel you have your fail-safe, like the moment that you can
Yeah.
always go back to.
But will she, retain the same consciousness like
Mm.
Stephen King's like Dark Tower series?
Oh,
like
yeah.
spoilers for that, but
Yeah.
at the end, like Roland's
Are you going to
back.
go right to the end of the Dark Tower series?
Yes,
Is that
I
like
am.
hundreds of thousands of pages? And you're
Yes.
just cutting right to the
Yes,
end.
I am.
She dies at the end.
Where?
It's cyclical, isn't it? So it
Roland-
just starts back around at the beginning.
Yeah, Roland.
Oh my
ends-
god, this is even worse.
He ends
you don't
up
need to
in
read
the
it.
first sentence of the book, but he remembers it all, and he's so tired. He's like, I can't do this again because he's
you
already.
cannot spoil an 8-volume or whatever.
7.
But you can
just
just
save people
spoil
a lot of time.
Wow.
Well, sorry.
What other really big things can we? Should we spoil Moby Dick pretty quick?
Just
Big
the
whale
whale
dies.
dies.
Well, do you know what? That's very interesting. I'm
Here we go.
Johnny and I are the only people interested in this.
Talking
And
about
I'm probably-
whales, though.
Yes.
Animal
Wow.
spirits.
Oh yeah.
The totem.
Oh, animal spirits.
Yes. So that sort of all ties into conversations you can have with Samuel, and also a book that you find in the school when you're trying to break open the principal's office. That he says that everyone has an animal spirit, and then there's theories online about the totem pole outside
Yeah.
their dormitory, the Tobanga statue.
Yeah.
Animal Spirits is also a Keynes, the economist Keynes talked about animal spirits, though probably not in the same way. He felt it was what drove the economy. I don't think they're going in that direction.
I don't
But I did
know.
just want to mention animal spirits.
Well, I don't know
Teens.
how that. I mean, it's just an interesting kind of
So you-
thematic thing that they've woven into the game, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
you've got the
Chloe's
butterfly.
obviously the butterfly. I think is Chloe. The deer
Yeah.
is very clearly Max.
Max.
Samuel himself says that he's a squirrel.
And you always have a squirrel to take a picture of, and
Well, there are so many
Yeah.
layers to this and so many red herrings. So Samuel, for example, could be a really creepy guy, or he
This-
could just be a
Yeah.
weird
Bit
person who
eccentric.
steals
However,
people's
there's that
clothing.
silk
Yeah, you
scarf
find
in
the
his-
scarves and the women's magazines and things in his office. But I
Yeah.
think there could be a perfectly innocent explanation for
like
that.
he's just into
Totally.
swimwear.
Yeah.
As Max herself says.
Doesn't make him a murderer necessarily.
I quite
No.
like the idea that for the final 2 episodes we shift perspective to the bumbling alcoholic principal, and it becomes
Oh,
kind of a
yeah.
knockabout Laurel and Hardy comedy.
Do you actually think? So do you think Rachel Amber is dead then?
I think that she
Where
is
is the
not
dark
in this.
room?
I think she's not in this timeline anymore.
Okay.
I think she's been some action that Max will make is going to displace her out of the timeline. That's what I think.
And yeah.
What do you think?
I wonder if I don't know. To be honest,
I don't think she's in California having a grand time.
But that's
That would be an
not-
amazing
I
twist.
assume
Yeah.
she is dead. I assume she's
I-
been murdered,
I kind
and
of
we're
hope
going to
she's
find
dead.
a murder culprit.
I
I
kind
just
of
feel
hope
that
that.
there's
I think
no.
Max hopes she's
there's
I
dead.
thought
no
we were going to go for a murder mystery, but it seems like it's now too sci-fi.
Well, but so if she's
Yeah.
not, but if she's not dead, we're acting on the assumption that other people have time powers apart from Max, or other people. Can
But that's how
influence
you
the
would.
flow of
That's
things.
definitely how you would do it. Is at the
I
end
don't
you
want
reveal.
it
At the end of
No, I
episode
don't
4, you
think you
reveal
need
that someone
that.
else has.
Like I really
powers.
hope people are saying, "Oh, well,
I don't
Max
think-
is Rachel Amber." I don't want them to do
I
that.
don't. Why would you need other people with the time powers though?
Well, where is she then?
I think Max goes back to some event.
Well,
and
right now, where is she? Is she dead? Or
because Max goes back in the future, Rachel Amber has disappeared from the timeline.
did she know what?
This
you
is the
mean
problem.
when-
Alive or dead doesn't matter because everyone is in a state of
Schrodinger's
superposition
cat.
now. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Everyone is superposition. They're both like alive and dead because everything is in flux.
Like I think that the timeline that we've been playing through, not the one that pops up at the end of episode 3, is one where Max has already gone back in time and Rachel Amber has, for some reason, probably accidentally or maybe there's some like
I bet
she
she
has to
turns up in
disappear so
current
that something
timeline
else doesn't
now.
happen.
I bet you she's in the timeline where we're now stuck in.
Yeah.
Is she
Yeah,
called,
she
is she
probably
called
is.
Amber, do you think, Rachel Amber, because this idea of being frozen in amber?
I read
Yes.
that theory and
I
yeah, I
just-
think
that's
it's
just good.
great. I
That's
think it's a
great.
great one.
Huh.
What do everyone think about the tornadoes at the end? How are we going to stop that? Is Rachel or Max or
Well,
Chloe
so-
going to have to die?
But the
I
tornadoes
think
and
it's
the dead
Chloe.
fish and
It's
the dead
Max
whales.
doing it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because that's the whole the hackneyed idea of chaos theory, and she's at
Yeah.
the end when she's gone into this different timeline. It's not just dead birds now. There are 3 dead whales on the beach.
It's the trade-off of her going that far back.
Which is which again is one of those ways where stories disappoint you. Is it turns into like don't meddle with what you don't understand, which is a really crap thing for a story.
Yeah,
to do.
especially when
It's a really
that's the game
conservative.
mechanic.
It's a really conservative place to land on.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's like you can change the little things, but don't try and change big things without there being.
But they do that so much better.
ramifications.
One of the brilliant things about this is it's about photography, and photography is the idea of freezing time and that moment, the moment that you can see but you can't reach back to, which is why photographs are so poignant. It really it captures all that stuff really beautifully, and it just feels that it's that thing I think a lot of us keep saying about the game is it handles the little things really elegantly, and the big things it doesn't handle as well.
Though one minor thing that wasn't handled elegantly, and forgive me for derailing slightly, but I really need to talk about this, is where Joyce keeps her eggs.
Oh my god, it was so annoying.
Furious.
I had to ask
yeah.
Tom.
Oh wait,
Because
yeah, I remember.
Why
this.
doesn't I was like, why doesn't Joyce keep her eggs in the fridge?
But she just
if
got
there are
that.
chickens outside, I went outside and was like, okay, there are dead birds. Am I supposed to like squeeze an egg out of this bird? Where are they? And Joyce is like, come on, get those eggs, which are in a grocery bag by the front door. I found them because I wanted to storm out. I was like, fuck you, Joyce. I'm done.
So what does everyone think will happen in episode 4?
Hopefully, we're going to get back to the original timeline very, very
I think
quickly.
they've committed too much. I think you have to have one episode in the new timeline.
However,
I
we
think
do know
whole
that we're going to be
one.
going
Yeah,
to a
that would break
vortex
it.
party, so that's gonna
Yeah.
hurt.
Oh, what, the Enchantment Under the Sea dance?
She's
Sorry,
gonna
that's
start
another
fainting
Ben
from
Schroeder
you.
reference.
I just, well, I don't know. Maybe I'll be eating my own words the next time we do this podcast, but I just feel like if they have the entire episode in the alternate timeline, it's going to be a deal breaker for me. Like,
Really?
Yeah, I just...
What they could do is they could go right back somewhere else in the story. They could actually stop the linear stuff. They could go back to an earlier moment in the story and pick up on something we didn't know about.
Yeah.
Like Rachel Amber's disappearance.
That's often like it would be cool if for the first moment of episode 4 you're suddenly playing as Rachel Amber. That would be really an interesting. That would reinvigorate my interest for this.
Yeah, and if Max comes back and is like, I know what happened to Rachel Amber,
Yeah.
that would be great.
Yeah.
And part of me wonders, like, what the significance of making Max wear Rachel's clothes for a good part of episode
Oh,
4
that's
is
like
about.
that is like a different, like, that's Vertigo, isn't it? A little bit.
Oh yeah, of course.
It feels like that's
Yeah.
kind of another nod to that sort of like the recreation of the dead, the dead lover thing.
Very kind of creepy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
especially
creepy
when Frank
and Vertigo.
mistakes. Like Frank goes, he has a weird moment where he's like, ugh.
Well, this is why I thought that Chloe must have had feelings for Rachel, because she's dressing Max up and then she asks, well, then she's trying to kiss her
Can I just say in
No, she
Vertigo?
kisses her before.
Yeah.
before she's dressed up.
Yeah.
Oh, but then she dresses her up after the kiss.
Yeah, but
So that's.
like his Max didn't have any clean clothes.
I think in episode 4 we'll have to save that girl from being hit by something else again. By time
Alyssa,
travel.
I love.
Yeah.
I really hope something will happen.
She sounds like Lumpy Space Princess from
Wah,
Adventure Time.
wah.
Oh my god! Stop standing in the way of projectiles. Stop it.
I do. It's just it makes me giggle every time I see her. now, 'cause
Was
I'm
there
like,
one in? Was there one in 3?
Yes,
Yeah.
you have to stop her from the puddle from the. She gets splashed.
Oh, that's pretty funny. That is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Oh well.
How could you do this to me, man?
Oh, thanks, Mark. She just talks like she has like stuff like cotton in her mouth. Proper mild brownie.
I like the fact that we're 3 episodes into a 5-episode thing, and I have no idea where it's going or how it will get there.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's cool.
It does make me worried about whether it's going to come off, like as you quite rightly say. I mean, when you were talking about how that it's not going to be a satisfying end, it reminded me a little bit of Murder by Death.
Yeah.
When at the end,
Everything reminds me of Murder by Death.
it's such a good film. When they're just railing against these writers, being like, "You have been tricking all of the." All of your readers for so long, and now they're fighting back because you're all humiliated because you think you're so clever, like wrapping it up in the
Yeah.
last 5 minutes. I think if they did that, I think they would be doing themselves a disservice. I think in order for Life is Strange to be as good as it could be, you need to be able, if you can, to figure out who done it or what happened.
yeah.
I'm hoping that it's just me not being able to see the wood for the trees.
And the
because-
clue needs to have been there in the first episode.
Yeah.
Yes, and I have faith that it probably is in there, and it will mean the second playthrough will take on a whole new meaning. But
What
I'm
if they
just
patch
worried.
it in afterwards?
If they do that, it's not
And then you
cool.
go back and replay episode 1 and say, I never saw that the first time.
It's really sad. I don't really care either way. I'm just having fun with like the characters and stuff, and I just I'm just like just kiss. That's all I care about. But yeah, I'm sure they will have a good explanation. It's a good story. Like I think that it's it's hammy and it's like the dialogue's pretty heavy at times, but it's fun. It's a story that I'm glad exists.
Well, yeah, this is the first time I've ever been like driven to start a podcast about one game in particular. So that's good.
Ever since the first game came out, I've been talking about it with people who've played it. It's I'm part of a little mailing list that we chat about the game and yeah, it's very, very unusual. And up there at the moment probably is my game of the year.
What I like is that they've taken a template that Telltale have made so desperately hollow and uninteresting.
Yeah.
And they've brought
Repetitive.
life to it.
Yeah.
They've made it feel bespoke again.
A strange life. But a
Alive.
life nonetheless.
Yeah, interestingly, when they at the BAFTA thing, they started talking about potential sequel series where they would talk about, but it would be different characters.
Yeah,
Sounds good. Oh, it's a True Detective kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the same sort of tone,
Yeah.
but different characters, different setting.
Well, I think we should probably leave it there, but we're going to come back and do this after episode 4, right?
Yes.
So
We're all gonna
Hella
fight. We're all gonna
podcasting.
fight about it.
in the meantime, hopefully people have some theories of their own they want to share, or perhaps they want to back up Joyce's insane egg-keeping
Team
protocol.
Where do you
Warren
keep
and
your
Team
eggs? That is such local radio, isn't it? Anyone remember trousers? Phone in
555
if you remember
6724. Where do you keep your eggs? But people,
Whose number did you just read out?
I have no idea.
555 is fine. It's fictional.
But if people want to leave us a comment with any feedback or thoughts or anything, we can comb through some of the more interesting ones at the start of the next one.
Awesome.
In the meantime,
Bye, Max!
Oh my
bye,
god.
God.
I can already tell. You're not so chicken shit anymore. Thanks, girlfriend. You know what I mean. You're becoming like this force of nature.